For 30 years, Washington bullied China. Tariffs, chip bans, sanctions. They seized Venezuela and wiped out billions in Chinese oil investments overnight. China said almost nothing. No war, no retaliation, just patience. Because China did not need to fight back with bombs. It already controlled something far more powerful. The minerals inside every American weapon, every American car, and every American smartphone. Now Washington is panicking, and the bully is finally feeling what it is like to be cornered. This is the story behind the story. In February 2026, Trump signed an executive order at the White House. He called it the most aggressive American stockpiling initiative since the Korean War. He gave it a name, Project Vault, a $12 billion reserve of critical minerals, gallium, germanium, rare earths, cobalt, materials that power F-35 fighter jets, Tomahawk cruise missiles, electric vehicles, and the smartphones in your pocket. But here is the question nobody in Washington wants to answer out loud. Why is the most powerful country on Earth suddenly scrambling to stockpile materials it should have been securing for the last 30 years? Let us start with the numbers, because they are shocking. According to the U.S. Geological Survey's own 2025 critical minerals list, the United States is completely import-dependent on 12 critical minerals. 0 domestic production, 0. For another 29 minerals, America relies on foreign sources for more than 50% of its supply. That is 41 minerals out of 60 classified as critical, where America's industrial and military machine depends on someone else's goodwill. Now, who is that someone else? China is the leading producer of 30 out of those 60 minerals, and according to the International Energy Agency, Beijing controls the refining and processing capacity for 19 out of 20 strategic minerals tracked, with an average global market share of approximately 70%. Let that number sink in. 70%. Not of mining, of refining. You can dig the mineral out of the ground anywhere on Earth, but if you cannot refine it, it is worthless, and China owns the refineries. In 2025, Ford Motor Company was forced to halt production of its Explorer model because it ran out of rare earth materials. One of America's most iconic car brands stopped cold, not by a war, not by a strike, but by a supply chain that runs through Beijing. This is not a warning. This already happened. Project Vault is a public-private partnership backed by a $10 billion loan from the U.S. Export-Import Bank, the largest loan in that bank's 92-year history, plus nearly $2 billion in private capital. General Motors, Boeing, and Google all expressed interest in joining. They are comparing it to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the oil buffer America created after the Arab oil embargo of the 1970s. But here is what they do not say loudly. The Petroleum Reserve was created after the crisis hit. Project Vault is being launched because the crisis already hit, and Washington is just now admitting it. A $12 billion reserve sounds enormous. But if China turns off the tap on rare earth exports, that stockpile lasts maybe 12 to 18 months. Project Vault is not a strategy. It is a panic response. So how did we get here? While Washington was fighting wars in Iraq, bombing Libya and sanctioning Iran, China was quietly doing something else entirely. China was locking up the minerals. In 2008, China signed the Sicko Mines deal with the Democratic Republic of Congo. In exchange for roads, hospitals and infrastructure, Beijing got mining rights to cobalt and copper. Today, Chinese companies control 80% of the DRC's cobalt output. The DRC holds over 70% of the world's known cobalt reserves, and China controls nearly 80% of global cobalt refining and close to 90% of rare earth processing. In 2024, China's largest electric vehicle maker, BYD, secured 6 African lithium mines, guaranteeing supply through 2032. China also acquired copper mines in Botswana, lithium mines in Mali, and rare earth mines in Tanzania. While America was building aircraft carriers, China was building supply chains. And those supply chains are now America's choke point. China did not just build this leverage. China already used it. In December 2024, Beijing banned exports of gallium, germanium and antimony to the United States, citing national security. This came directly after Washington expanded semiconductor export controls against Chinese companies. In April 2025, China escalated further, restricting 7 rare earth elements, including dysprosium, terbium and yttrium. These materials are inside the motors of F-35 fighter jets, Predator drones and guided missile systems. Washington panicked. Defense contractors raised alarms. The United States Geological Survey estimated a full gallium and germanium export ban could cost the American economy $3.4 billion in GDP losses. Only after Trump agreed to lower tariffs did China suspend the bans in November 2025. But read that carefully. China did not end the restriction. China suspended it. The suspension expires November 27, 2026. The weapon is still loaded. It is just holstered for now. Now let us talk about Venezuela, because this is the part nobody is connecting to the mineral story. On January 2, 2026, United States military forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Trump announced that American oil companies would take over Venezuela's oil infrastructure. Here is what that meant for China. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, and China was buying approximately 76% of Venezuela's total oil output in 2025. China's state oil giant, CNPC, had 5 projects in Venezuela. China was owed approximately $10 to $12 billion in debt, being repaid through oil flows. After the United States operation, those flows collapsed overnight. China condemned the action. But what did China actually do? Almost nothing. It simply pivoted to Iranian crude and moved on. No military response, no major retaliation, just adaptation. And this is where the story changes completely. Why does China not just fight back? Washington seized Venezuela and wiped out Chinese investments worth billions. It banned Chinese tech companies. It armed Taiwan. It sanctioned Chinese banks. Yet China keeps responding with patience. The answer is not that China is weak. The answer is that China is already winning. Every time Washington escalates, China can respond with targeted mineral export controls, and the entire Western industrial economy shudders. They do not need military force. A single memo from Beijing restricting gallium exports does more damage to American defense manufacturing than any naval maneuver. And China is still building. New mines in Africa. New processing facilities at home. Every year that passes, China's lead in the supply chain gets larger, not smaller. The trade truce of November 2025 actually benefited China. Trump lowered tariffs. China temporarily suspended the mineral bans. But China still owns the mines. China still owns the refineries. The suspension ends in late 2026. And after that, what? This is not submission. This is strategic patience at a level Washington cannot comprehend. China does not need to match America bomb for bomb. China just needs to wait. Rare earth processing facilities take 7 to 10 years to build and scale. New mining operations take a decade from exploration to production. The refining expertise China accumulated over 30 years cannot be replicated with a $12 billion reserve fund. Project Volt buys time, maybe 2 years, maybe 3. After that, there is no credible plan in Washington. So here is the story behind the story. America is running out of critical minerals, not because those minerals do not exist, but because Washington spent 30 years fighting wars while China spent 30 years securing supply chains. The same minerals inside the weapons America used to bomb Iran. The same minerals that make the F-35 and the Tomahawk work. The same minerals that power every AI server, every electric vehicle, every drone. China controls where those minerals come from. The bully picked fights all over the world. It bombed, it sanctioned, it invaded. And while it was doing all of that, the country it was bullying was quietly locking up the one thing the bully cannot function without. America did not lose the mineral war in 2025. America lost it in 1995. It just did not notice until now. If this opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it.